Hello everyone, this is Ray Roberts, and I just want to make a quick video here in regards to the issue of classroom management. It seems like that's an issue that continuously comes up in the WhatsApp group, and I really thank everyone for giving their suggestions and sharing their experiences about how they deal with classroom management. I want to take a couple minutes just to talk about some best practices as it relates to classroom management. Best practice number one, make sure you have dynamic lessons prepared for your students. Engaging, personalized lessons that are student-driven and student-based. Make sure that you are reducing your talk time, your teacher talk time, and that you are giving the students the opportunity to talk. Also, make sure in your lessons you're giving the students opportunities to get on their feet and move around. So the lesson needs to be engaging, it needs to be physical, and it needs to be student driven. That's tip number one. Tip number two, when you have a student who is off task, please do not reward that student by offering them candy, allow them to sit next to you, giving them special responsibilities, making them the class leader. None of this is suggested. And the reason why this is not suggested is because what you are doing is rewarding the student for being off task. We do not want to reward any student for his negative behavior. We want to reward students for positive behavior. This actually helps with the student's emotional intelligence. Okay? So we want to reward positive behavior. And the way we do this, and the way we can promote this, is when a student is off task, we reward the students who are on task. We ignore the students who are doing the wrong thing, and we give praise and worship to the students who are doing the right things. Tip number three, I think I'm on tip number three. Make sure you have the class rules on in your classroom, visible in your classroom, and make sure those rules are low in number. Do not have 20 rules or 10 rules. How about having 3 or 4 or 5 rules? 5 max. I like 4 classroom rules that really embody what you want to accomplish as it relates to a good learner, a good citizen learner in your classroom. And that's these 4 rules you can, as a system, remind students of before you start each lesson. Which leads me to tip number 4. When you start activities during a lesson that you know may create some noise or may create some excitement in students, please make sure that you remind students of the class rules and how good classroom citizens act within the classroom. How about this one? How about you create a rubric, an ongoing rubric that you can pass out to students before each activity that you predict may may allow the students or promote the students being a little active and loud, that they can follow. You pass out this rubric, and again, there's a number of variables in the rubric that the student can turn to, so they know what being a good citizen looks like. They know what success looks like. That's very important in our teaching, is that we allow students and we promote success, and that we place our students in a position where they can be successful. And one way we can do that is through rubrics. Through content and through physical behavior, emotional intelligence, as well as our information intelligence, the content intelligence. The next rule tip, I believe is tip number 5, is to make sure you have a behavior modification program in your classroom, and maybe even your school or your department, where students know that there is something that could be lost or gained from their behavior. So students who are on task, they know that there's a goal, or there's a victory, or there's a reward that can get at some points, and we normally want to I normally like to do those every month. We give monthly rewards as it relates to behavior modification and good behavior, and that students who are off task won't get the reward. So these are my 5 tips about classroom management. Again, I think the most important tip is to have a dynamic lesson plan that is personalized for the student, that speaks to a student's amygdala. Remember, the amygdala says, what's in it for me? And every student has an amygdala. And if you're not able to communicate to the students what's in it for them, you're going to have problems. So make sure you have dynamic lesson plans. Move away from just teaching out of the book. That's boring. Have dynamic lesson plans. And you will find that your classroom management issues will drastically decrease. Another thing that I want to talk briefly about is teachers staying in their lanes. A lot of times in the conversation in the WhatsApp group, I see teachers doing a lot of diagnosis of students and diagnosis of parents and diagnosis of everyone. Know thyself. Okay, stay in your lane. Okay, I tell other professionals to stay. Don't get in the teacher's business, and I'm going to tell teachers, do not get into medical professionals' business. Okay, don't get into the psychiatrist or the psychologist's business or the school counselor's business. Okay, give the proper referrals. That's my children being off task probably, but give the proper referrals to the school counselor or the school psychologist, or if you have the luxury of having these positions in your school. But don't diagnose students unless you have a degree and you're licensed to do so. Don't do that. Just go about the business of delivering great instruction. If a student's off task, that doesn't mean he's coming from a negative home or his parents are getting divorced or any of these things. These are all cliches type of things that we hear over the years as teachers, and we use really as scapegoats. We use them as scapegoats to kind of make ourselves feel good about our lack of classroom management ability and our lack of teaching ability, if we're going to be completely honest. So we say, well, maybe he's having problems at home. No, he may come from a wonderful home. He just knows that you don't have any structure in your classroom. So he can act a fool, or she can act a fool. And quite frankly, often than not, that is the case. That students know, they know what teachers they can take advantage of and the teachers they can't. So let's focus on our teaching delivery and our pedagogical approach and our perspectives. Make sure that we're being the reflective teacher, giving the best instruction, the best personalized, engaging instruction that we can, and making sure we create a system and that we provide an atmosphere where students can learn, students feel comfortable with making mistakes, and students feel comfortable and able to be good classroom citizens, and an atmosphere where students know what success looks like. Students know what success looks like, and we can do that by telling them what success looks like. When you're teaching, you're teaching. When you're testing, you're testing. With that, I'm out. Be someone's champion. Happy teaching.